The cleaning lady quietly watched the millionaire spend millions trying to save his son, while everyone treated her as invisible. But when she finally spoke and revealed what she recognized, the room froze. Hands trembled, eyes widened, and everyone fell silent, realizing the truth had been there all along. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and comment where in the world you're watching from, because now I'm going to tell you everything. The machines beeped in a steady, lonely rhythm. Tell me what this test says. In simple words, Daniel Carter said, not looking at the doctor. He stared at his son. Leo lay small and still in the giant bed, a tube under his nose. Dr. Evans shifted on his feet. Mr. Carter, the results are the same as last week and the week before. All the numbers are in the normal range for a boy his age. His blood is normal. His heart is strong. We see no sign of infection, no sign of disease. Daniel's hand tightened around his phone. That is not possible. Look at him. He cannot sit up. He barely eats. He has not run or played in months. You are telling me this is normal? We are telling you we cannot find a physical cause, the doctor said softly. Daniel turned now, his blue eyes sharp. Then you have not looked hard enough. You are not asking the right questions. I pay you to ask the right questions. In the bed, Leo's eyelids fluttered. He let out a small, weak cough. The sound shot through Daniel like a bolt. He pointed at his son. Hear that? That is not a normal cough. That is a sick cough. Run the tests again. Run different ones. I want a specialist from Boston on a plane tonight. I want a team from Johns Hopkins on a video call in 1 hour. Mr. Carter, more tests will not change. I am not asking for your opinion, Daniel said, his voice low and hard. I am giving you an instruction. Fix him. Find what is wrong, or I will find people who can. The doctor left the room with a quiet nod, his shoulders slumped. Daniel walked to the window. His glass house looked over all of San Francisco. He had bought this view, this life. He had built a company from nothing. He could solve any problem. Why could he not solve this? The door opened a few minutes later. A woman in a soft blue shirt and quiet shoes came in. She carried a dusting cloth and a spray bottle. She did not look at Daniel or the boy. She simply began to wipe the already clean surfaces of the medical cart. Daniel spoke without turning. Maria, not now. Yes, Mr. Carter, Maria Gonzalez said, her voice a gentle murmur. She did not leave. She moved to the far side of the room, polishing the handle of the balcony door, making herself small and quiet. Daniel's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. It was his assistant. He put the phone to his ear. Tell me you booked the clinic in Switzerland. A woman's voice came through. I did, sir, but they are saying the treatment is very high risk. They want to do more evaluations before they agree to take Leo as a patient. I do not care about the risk. I care about the result. Tell them I will pay double. Tell them I will fly them here first class tomorrow. Make it happen. He ended the call. He looked back at Leo. The boy's eyes were open, watching a tiny dust mote float in a sunbeam. Leo, Daniel said, walking to the bed. His voice changed, trying to be softer. It came out strained. How do you feel? Do you need more medicine? Do you need a different pillow? Leo turned his head slowly. His eyes were big and blue, just like his father's. I am tired, Daddy. I know, buddy, I know, but we are going to fix it. Daddy is talking to the very best doctors in the whole world. We are going to find the answer. He reached out and brushed the hair from Leo's forehead. His touch was awkward, like he was handling something very fragile he did not understand. Can you read to me? Leo whispered. Soon, Daniel said, already pulling out his phone to check an email. I have one more very important call to make about a new doctor. Then maybe later, okay? Maria, he said, turning. Can you sit with him for a little while? Maria nodded from her place by the door. Yes, sir. Daniel walked out of the room. His quick, heavy footsteps echoed down the hall. A door clicked shut. Then, silence. Maria finished her polishing. She put the cloth in her pocket. She walked to the big bed. She looked down at Leo. She did not speak. After a long moment, Leo moved. He pushed himself up a little on his elbows. He was still pale, but a new light was in his eyes. He looked at the closed door, then at Maria. He is gone? Yes, *Michelito*, Maria said. He is gone. Leo let out a small breath that was not a cough. He reached under the blanket and pulled out a worn, stuffed blue whale. He held it close. Bubbles was lonely, he said. I see, Maria said. She picked up a glass of water from the nightstand. The sun is nice on the garden. The little yellow flowers are open today. Leo looked past her, toward the big window. A deep sadness filled his small face. It was not the sickness he showed his father. It was something else, a simple, heartbreaking want. He did not speak again. Maria stood there for 5 more minutes. She just stood, a quiet presence in the room full of loud machines. She saw the way Leo's body was less limp now. She saw the way his fingers stroked the stuffed whale with real feeling. She had seen this many times before. The sound of Daniel's voice boomed from down the hall, angry and bright, talking on another video call. At the first sound, Leo's body changed. He sank back into the pillows. His eyes lost their focus. He became small and weak again, a boy waiting for a cure that would never come from a doctor. Maria picked up her cleaning basket. She gave one last look at the boy, then at the door where the father's voice came through. She saw everything, and she said nothing. The next morning, Maria's bus arrived at the stop near the big glass house at 7 o'clock. She walked up the steep hill, her lunch bag in her hand. The city was quiet. She used her key to open the side door, as she always did. The house was silent. It was always silent now. She put her bag in the small staff closet and put on her soft shoes. She started in the kitchen, wiping the counters that were already clean. She listened. She heard a door open upstairs. Quick, heavy footsteps. Daniel Carter's voice, tense and hurried, talking to someone on his phone. The paperwork from Switzerland must be here today. I do not care about the time difference. Wake someone up. The footsteps went down the hall and into the home office. The door shut. Then, a deeper silence. Maria took her cleaning cart upstairs. She moved past the closed office door. She stopped at the doorway of Leo's room. The boy was awake. He was sitting up in bed looking at a picture book. His stuffed whale, Bubbles, was in his lap. He did not look up. Good morning, Leo, Maria said softly. He glanced at her. Good morning, Maria. Would you like me to open the window? The air is nice. He nodded. She opened the big window a little. A cool breeze from the bay came in. It moved the pages of his book. Your daddy is working, Maria said, not as a question. He is always working, Leo said. His voice was not a weak whisper now. It was a small, flat sound. He looked at his book. This story is about a boy who finds a secret island. That sounds like a good story. My dad used to read it to me, Leo said. He did not say anything else. Maria began to clean the room. She dusted the machines. She wiped the windowsill. She emptied the small trash bin. She worked slowly and quietly. She watched Leo from the corner of her eye. He put his book down. He picked up Bubbles and held a quiet conversation with the whale, his lips moving without sound. Then, he carefully got out of bed. He was slow, but he stood on his own. He walked to the big basket of toys in the corner. He knelt down and took out some Lego blocks. He started to build, his small fingers snapping the pieces together. Maria's dusting cloth moved over the nightstand. She saw the medicine bottles, the digital thermometer, the notepad where the nurses wrote numbers. She saw the boy on the floor, making a tower. The sound of Daniel's office door opening made them both freeze. Leo's head snapped up. His eyes went wide. He looked at Maria, a flash of fear in his eyes. In one quick motion, he pushed the Lego tower over. The blocks scattered on the carpet. He stood up, wobbling. He stumbled back to his bed, almost falling into it. He pulled the covers up to his chin. He closed his eyes and let his mouth fall open a little, his body going limp. Daniel's footsteps came down the hall. He appeared in the doorway. He looked tired. He did not really see Maria. He looked only at Leo. He is sleeping again? Daniel asked, his voice rough. He was tired, Maria said, her voice even. Daniel shook his head. He ran a hand through his hair. The clinic in Europe wants more tests, more time. We do not have more time. He looked at his son, his face full of pain and anger. Why can no one tell me what is wrong with my boy? He turned and walked away, his phone already at his ear again. Maria stood still. She looked at the scattered Lego blocks on the floor. She looked at the small, still form in the bed. She saw his chest move up and down with breaths that were too even, too controlled for real sleep. She walked over and picked up the Lego blocks. She put them back in the basket, one by one. Her mind was not on the toys. Her mind was on the pattern. She had seen it yesterday. She saw it again today. The quiet, sad boy when the father was gone. The sick, weak boy when the father was near. She finished putting the blocks away. She looked at Leo. His eyes were open now, just a sliver. He was watching her. A single tear rolled from the corner of his eye into his hair. Maria did not know what to say. She was just the cleaning lady. She poured fresh water into his glass. She put it on the nightstand where he could reach it. "Maria," his tiny voice whispered. "Yes, Leo? Do you think my dad will ever stop making phone calls?" Maria's heart felt very heavy. She looked at the closed door. She could still hear the faint, angry sound of Daniel's voice from down the hall. "I do not know," she said truthfully, "but I will be here tomorrow." She took her cart and left the room. She had the rest of the house to clean, but her thoughts stayed in that room with the boy who was not sick, but was so very, very hurt. She knew something was wrong, a different kind of wrong, and she knew no doctor from Switzerland would ever find it. Leo waited until Maria's footsteps faded down the stairs. He opened his eyes. The house was quiet again, just the low hum of his machines. He pulled Bubbles close. He did not even come all the way in, Leo whispered to the whale. He just stood in the door. Bubbles had no answer. Leo sat up. He looked at the sunny rectangle of light on the floor where his Lego tower had been. He felt a hollow ache in his chest. It was not a sick ache. It was the same ache he felt every day. It was the feeling of wanting. He remembered a different time. The memory was fuzzy but warm. He was maybe 4 years old. He was in his old, smaller room. His mother was there. She was laughing. His father was there too, on the floor with him. They were building a castle out of wooden blocks. The castle was taller than Leo. "Ready, Captain," his dad had said, his voice big and smiling. 3, 2, 1, blow. And they had both blown on the castle, and it had fallen with a wonderful crash, and everyone had laughed. Then the bad thing happened, the car accident. His mother went away and never came back. After that, his father changed. The man on the floor went away. A new father came. This father wore a phone on his ear. This father looked at Leo with worried eyes, not laughing eyes. This father brought home doctors instead of new blocks. One day, a little over a year ago, a tutor came to teach Leo his letters. Leo did not like the tutor. The man had a boring voice. Leo wanted to go to the park. He wanted his dad. "I do not feel good," Leo had said, putting a hand on his forehead. He had seen someone do that in a cartoon. His father, who was about to leave for work, stopped. He came over. He put his own hand on Leo's head. "You feel warm," he had said, his voice full of concern. He canceled his meeting. He stayed home. He sat on the edge of Leo's bed and read one whole story, then another. It was the best day Leo had in a long time. The next week, his father was going on a trip for 3 days. Leo did not want him to go. "My tummy hurts," Leo whispered at breakfast. His father knelt down. "Does it hurt a lot?" Leo nodded, making his eyes wide. "A lot." His father canceled the trip. He called many people and spoke in an angry voice, but he stayed home. He watched cartoons with Leo on the big couch. Leo learned a rule. It was a secret, powerful rule. When he acted sick, his father stayed. When he acted sick, his father paid attention. The more sick Leo acted, the more his father tried to fix it. He brought home doctors who poked him, which Leo hated. But his father was there, in the house, talking about him. So, Leo kept doing it. He started to stay in bed. He made his voice very soft. He saved all his energy for the times he was alone. He did not mean for it to become a big thing. He did not understand $2 million or clinics in Switzerland. He only knew one thing. He missed his dad, the real one, the one from before. Now he looked at the closed door of his room. He heard nothing. His father was gone into his office world again. He slid out of bed. He went to the toy basket. He found a red race car. He pushed it along the floor, making a soft vroom sound. He played for 10 minutes. Then he stopped. Playing alone was not fun. The quiet of the big house pressed in on him. He carried the car and Bubbles back to bed. He lay down and stared at the ceiling. He thought about asking Maria to read to him when she came back upstairs, but she had work to do. Everyone had work to do. He was just the boy in the bed, the problem to be solved. He hoped his dad would come back before dinner. Maybe if he coughed a little when he heard him in the hall, His dad would come in. Maybe he would sit down. Maybe, just maybe, he would tell a story about the castle of blocks, and for a minute, the old dad would be back. It was a small hope, but it was the only one Leo had. He held on to Bubbles and waited. "I need a yes or a no, right now." Daniel Carter's voice cut through the grand living room. 3 men in expensive suits sat on the white sofa, looking uncomfortable. Dr. Alastair Finch, the lead specialist, cleared his throat. "Mr. Carter, the procedure is incredibly complex. To say yes without a full month of preparatory scans would be unethical." Unethical? Daniel stood by the fireplace, his face tight. What is unethical is leaving a 6-year-old boy to waste away when a solution exists. I have read every paper on this gene therapy. I have funded 2 of your research grants. Do not talk to me about ethics. Talk to me about logistics. Maria polished the already gleaming mantelpiece behind him. Her hands moved the cloth in slow circles. Her eyes were on the floor, but her ears heard everything. She had seen these men arrive an hour ago. She had felt the air in the house grow cold and heavy. "The logistics are $2 million, Dr. Finch said, his voice cooler now. "And a facility in Zurich equipped for the recovery. We would need to move him by private air ambulance next week." "Then do it," Daniel said. The words were not an agreement. They were an order. "You will do the procedure next week, or I will find someone who will. My son is running out of time." Maria's hand stopped. She looked up, not at the men, but at the wide staircase that led to the 2nd floor. At the top, just visible through the railing, was a small shadow. Leo was there, sitting on the top step, listening. He was holding Bubbles. He was not supposed to be out of bed. She thought of her abuelo, her grandfather, in his small village in Mexico. He would sit in the sun and say, mijita, the body sometimes cries for the soul. She never understood it fully until now, in this cold glass house full of shouting and money. "The contract is right here," Daniel said, pointing to a thick stack of papers on the coffee table. "Sign it. Start the arrangements." Maria saw Leo's shadow stand up. He took 1 step down, then another, silent as a mouse. His little face was pale, his eyes fixed on his father's back. Dr. Finch picked up a pen. He looked at the other 2 doctors, then back at Daniel. "Very well. We will need the first payment wired by 5 o'clock today." This was it, the point of no return. Maria's heart began to pound very fast. She saw Leo halfway down the stairs now, tears starting to roll down his cheeks. He was not coughing. He was not weak. He was just a little boy, watching his father trade a fortune for a cure he did not need. Her feet moved before her mind could stop them. She set her dusting cloth down on the mantel. Her hands were trembling. She stepped away from the wall and into the open space between the sofa and the fireplace. "Mr. Carter," she said. Her voice came out as a dry whisper. Daniel turned, irritated at the interruption. "Not now, Maria." "Please," she said, a little louder. She clenched her hands to stop their shaking. "Please, stop." Dr. Finch lowered the pen, looking at the small woman in a cleaning shirt as if she were a bug. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "What did you say to me?" Maria looked right at him. She did not look at the doctors. She poured all her strength into her words. "He is not sick in his body. Can you not see? He is sick in his heart. He is lonely. He misses you. The room went perfectly, utterly silent. Daniel's face flushed a deep red. The insult, the audacity, the sheer absurdity of it all crashed over him. "How dare you?" he thundered, the words exploding in the quiet room. "You clean the floors. You know nothing. Get out of this room right now before I call security and have you thrown out." But Maria did not move. Her eyes left his and went to the staircase. Daniel's gaze followed hers. Leo stood on the bottom step, clutching the railing. His whole body shook with silent sobs. When he saw his father look at him, a broken sound escaped his lips. "I just want you to read me a story, Daddy," the little boy cried, his voice raw with a year of loneliness. "Like you used to." For a long moment, no one moved. The only sound was Leo's shaky breathing. Daniel Carter stared at his son. He saw the tears cutting clean lines down his pale cheeks. He saw the small hands gripping the wooden railing, knuckles white. He saw the eyes, huge and blue and filled with a hurt so deep it stole the air from the room. "Like I used to." Those 3 words broke something open inside Daniel. They were not an accusation. They were just the truth. A simple, devastating truth. He saw a flash of memory. Leo's 5th birthday party. Daniel had been in Tokyo for a deal. He had called on video, but the connection was bad. Leo's disappointed face, pixelated and frozen. "It's okay, Daddy," the boy had said. He saw another, a Saturday months ago. Leo had asked to go see the sea lions at Pier 39. Daniel had said, "Next weekend, buddy, I have to finish this." But the next weekend had brought a new team of doctors from New York. He saw the piles of expensive toys unopened, the empty space beside Leo in the big bed where a father should have sat to read a silly story about a secret island. All the money, all the doctors, all the shouting. They were just walls. Walls he built around himself so he would not have to feel this crushing knowledge that he had failed. Not as a provider, but as a father. The anger drained from his body. His shoulders slumped. The red left his face. He looked from Leo to Maria, who stood silently with her head bowed, waiting to be fired. He looked at Dr. Finch, who still held the pen over the $2 million contract. Daniel's voice, when it came, was hollow. "Leave." Dr. Finch blinked. "I'm sorry? All of you, leave my house, now." Daniel did not shout. The command was quiet, final. "Mr. Carter, be reasonable, Doctor." Finch sputtered, standing up. "The boy is clearly distressed. This changes nothing about his medical condition." "It changes everything," Daniel said, his eyes never leaving Leo. "Get out." The 3 doctors gathered their papers. They shot looks of pure contempt at Maria as they walked past her and out of the room. The front door closed with a heavy thud. Then, it was just the 3 of them, Daniel, Maria, and the little boy on the stairs. Daniel walked toward Leo. His steps were slow, like he was walking through deep water. He stopped at the bottom of the staircase. He knelt down, bringing his eyes level with his son's. "Leo," he said. His voice cracked. Leo flinched, as if expecting more yelling. He hugged Bubbles tighter. I am so sorry," Daniel whispered. The words were strange in his mouth. He never apologized. He fixed things, but he could not fix this with money. He could only say the words. "I am so sorry I did not read to you." A fresh sob broke from Leo. He let go of the railing and stumbled forward 1 step into his father's arms. Daniel caught him. He held the small, trembling body. He felt how light his son was, how the bones felt too close to the skin. But he also felt the real strength in the arms that wrapped around his neck and held on, tight. Daniel buried his face in his son's hair. He cried. He did not make a sound, but his shoulders shook. Over Leo's head, Daniel looked at Maria. She was wiping her own eyes with the back of her hand. He gave her a slow, shaky nod. It was not a thank you. It was too soon for that. It was an acknowledgement. He saw her now. After a long time, Leo's crying softened to hiccups. Daniel pulled back just enough to look at his face. He brushed the tears away with his thumb. "Which story?" he asked, his voice rough. Leo sniffled. "The one about the boy and the secret island." "Okay," Daniel said. He stood up, lifting Leo in his arms. He carried him past the quiet, blinking machines, over to the big chair by the window. He sat down. He arranged Leo on his lap. He found the book on the nightstand. He opened it. He began to read. His voice was unsteady at first, then it grew stronger. Leo sank against his chest, his body relaxing for the first time in a year, listening not to the words, but to the sound of his father's voice, finally there, just for him. The phone call was made from a sleek car winding down the hill from Pacific Heights. "Yes, Child Protective Services, please," Dr. Alastair Finch said, his voice tight. He waited, drumming his fingers on the leather steering wheel. "Hello, I need to make an urgent report. It concerns a minor child, Leo Carter. The address is..." He gave the details. He made his voice sound full of grave concern. "The father is Daniel Carter. He is medically neglecting his son. The boy has a chronic, undiagnosed condition. I and 2 other specialists were prepared to perform a life-altering intervention." The father agreed. Then today he suddenly refused all medical help. He threw us out. He is now listening to the advice of a housekeeper, an unqualified cleaning woman with no medical training. She has convinced him there is nothing physically wrong. It is dangerous. The boy is failing. He needs proper care, and his father is denying it. Yes, I am his former lead specialist. I fear for the child's safety. He hung up. A thin, satisfied smile touched his lips. The $2 million was gone, but so was Daniel Carter's high-handed victory. He would see who was in control. 2 days later, a woman named Mrs. Jenkins stood at the front door of the glass house. She wore a simple navy blue suit and carried a tablet computer. Her expression was polite but unreadable. Daniel opened the door. He looked different. He wore a simple t-shirt and jeans. He had not shaved. "Can I help you?" "Mr. Carter, I am Eleanor Jenkins from the Department of Child and Family Services. I need to speak with you about your son, Leo." Daniel's face went pale. He stepped back to let her in. "What is this about?" "We received a report of possible medical neglect," Mrs. Jenkins said, walking into the living room. Her eyes took in the expensive, cold space. "May I see Leo?" "He's in the garden," Daniel said, his mind racing. "With Maria, the housekeeper. He's been playing outside. He's better." "That is good to hear," Mrs. Jenkins said, her tone not changing. "I still need to see him and speak with you." They walked through the house to the back garden. Leo was sitting on a blanket on the grass. Maria was next to him, showing him how to weave 2 long blades of grass together. Leo was watching, his face serious. He had color in his cheeks. "Leo?" Daniel said. Leo looked up. He saw his father and smiled. Then he saw the stranger, and the smile vanished. He moved closer to Maria. "Hello, Leo," Mrs. Jenkins said, kneeling down at a distance. "My name is Eleanor. I just wanted to say hello." Leo hid his face against Maria's arm. "He's shy," Daniel said quickly. "That's all right," Mrs. Jenkins said. She stood up and turned to Daniel. "Can we speak inside?" Back in the living room, Mrs. Jenkins opened her tablet. "The report states you terminated essential medical care for your son, that you are following non-medical advice putting him at risk. Can you explain?" Daniel felt a familiar surge of anger, the kind he used to solve problems. He wanted to yell, to threaten legal action, but he looked out the window at his son on the grass. He took a breath. "The doctors were wrong," he said, forcing his voice to stay calm. "They wanted to do a surgery he did not need. My son, he was not sick in his body. He was sad. He is getting better now, with attention, with care." "I see," Mrs. Jenkins said, typing a note. "And you decided this based on the opinion of your housekeeper?" "She saw what I did not see," Daniel said. "Mr. Carter, you understand my concern. A child with a serious medical history. All professional care is stopped on the word of a domestic employee. The state has a duty to ensure Leo's safety. If you are refusing necessary treatment—" "I am not refusing treatment. He doesn't need that treatment." Daniel's control slipped. "That is a medical decision you are not qualified to make, Mrs. Jenkins said calmly. "I will need to review all his medical records. I will need to speak with his previous doctors. If I determine he is being denied essential care, the court may order temporary custody. He would be placed in foster care until a full evaluation is completed." The words hit Daniel like a physical blow. Foster care *. His Leo taken away. The floor seemed to tilt under him. His money, his power, his anger, none of it mattered in this room with this woman and her tablet. "You can't do that," he whispered. "My goal is to keep children safe, Mr. Carter. You need to prove Leo is safe here. You need to prove you are making decisions in his best interest. Right now, the evidence I have suggests the opposite." She handed him a business card. "I will be in touch. I will be back to see Leo next week. I strongly suggest you reconsider engaging with proper medical professionals." She left. Daniel stood alone in the silent, sunlit living room, the card pinched between his fingers. He felt more lost and helpless than he had ever felt in his life. The enemy was no longer a disease. It was the system, and it saw him not as a savior, but as a threat to his own son. Daniel stood by the window long after Mrs. Jenkins's card disappeared. The business card in his hand felt like a lead weight. He looked at the garden. Maria was helping Leo stand up. The boy wobbled, then took a few careful steps on the grass before sitting down again. He was weak from a year in bed, but he was trying. For the first time in his life, Daniel Carter had no plan. He could not buy his way out of this. He could not shout his way out. The only thing left was to do the thing he had never done: be still and be a father. He walked into his home office. He looked at the wall of screens, the blinking servers, the symbol of his entire life's work. He picked up the phone. He called his second-in-command, Amanda. "Amanda, I am stepping away. Effective immediately. You are in charge of all daily operations. Forward only the absolute emergencies to my personal email. No calls." There was a stunned silence on the line. "Daniel, is everything?" "No," he said honestly. "But I need to be here. Just run it, Amanda. Please." He hung up before she could ask more questions. He found Maria in the kitchen, washing Leo's hands at the sink. Leo was on a stool, carefully soaping his fingers. "Maria," Daniel said. His voice was quiet. "What do I do?" Maria turned off the water. She dried Leo's hands with a towel. "You stay," she said. She did not look at him. "You stay in the room. You listen. You do not look at your phone." It sounded so simple. It felt impossible. The next morning after Maria arrived, Daniel did not go to his office. He went to Leo's room. Leo was sitting in bed, looking at a puzzle. "Good morning," Daniel said. Leo looked up, surprised. "Are you going to work?" "Not today," Daniel said. He sat in the chair by the bed. He felt awkward. "What is that puzzle?" "It's a whale, like bubbles." Leo held up a blue piece. "Can I help?" Leo nodded slowly. Daniel pulled his chair closer. For 20 minutes, they looked for pieces. Daniel's mind screamed to check his email. His leg bounced with nervous energy, but he kept his hands on the puzzle. He found a piece with a fin. "Here," he said, handing it to Leo. Leo took it and snapped it into place. A small smile touched his lips. "Thank you, Daddy." Later, Daniel suggested a walk, just to the end of the street and back. Leo agreed. They moved very slowly. Daniel had to match his son's small, shuffling steps. He did not hurry him. A neighbor walked by with a dog. "Hello, Leo," the neighbor said. Leo hid behind Daniel's leg. Daniel almost apologized, but stopped himself. He just put a hand on Leo's head. "It's okay," he murmured. After the walk, Leo was tired. Daniel made him lunch, something simple, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. He made a mess with the jelly. Leo watched him, a little light in his eyes. "You put too much," Leo said. "I did," Daniel said, laughing a little at himself. It was a strange sound in the quiet kitchen. In the afternoon, Daniel sat on the sofa. "Do you want me to read?" Leo brought 3 books and climbed up next to him. Not on his lap, but close. Daniel read. He did all the voices. He read a second book. When he finished the third, he looked down. Leo was asleep against his arm, bubbles tucked under his chin. Daniel did not move. He let his son sleep. He watched the small chest rise and fall. He felt the warm weight against his side. This was not a problem to solve. This was just a boy, trusting him enough to fall asleep next to him. Maria passed by the doorway. She saw them there. She gave Daniel a small, brief nod. It was not praise. It was a recognition that he was trying. When Leo woke up, Daniel said, "Should we have hot chocolate?" Leo's eyes lit up. "With marshmallows?" "Yes," Daniel said, "with many marshmallows." They drank it at the kitchen table. Leo had a white mustache on his upper lip. Daniel did not wipe it off. He just looked at his son. He was learning. It was the hardest work he had ever done. The hot chocolate mustache was still on Leo's lip when the doorbell rang 2 days later. Daniel's heart jumped. He knew who it was. Mrs. Jenkins stood on the step, her tablet in hand. "Mr. Carter, I'd like to see how Leo was doing." "Of course," Daniel said, stepping back. He called out, trying to keep his voice calm. "Leo, Mrs. Jenkins is here to say hello." Leo came out of the living room holding Bubbles. He stood close to his father's leg but did not hide. He looked at the social worker. "Hello again, Leo," Mrs. Jenkins said. "What do you have there?" "This is Bubbles," Leo said, his voice small but clear. "He looks like a good friend." "Mrs. Jenkins smiled briefly, then looked at Daniel. "Can we talk?" They sat in the living room. Leo stayed in the doorway, listening. "Have you re-engaged with any medical professionals?" Mrs. Jenkins asked. "No," Daniel said. "But look at him. He is eating. He is walking. He sleeps through the night. He is getting stronger every day without any medicine. The report from his doctors is very concerning. They state he has a serious condition that requires monitoring. Their only tool was a scalpel or a pill bottle," Daniel said, his old frustration rising. He pushed it down. "I am monitoring him. I am with him all day, every day." "And your work?" I stopped. "My second-in-command is running the company. Mrs. Jenkins raised an eyebrow, typing a note. That is a significant change. He is more important, Daniel said simply. From the doorway, Leo spoke up. Daddy reads 3 stories now, sometimes 4. Daniel looked at his son, surprised. Mrs. Jenkins turned to Leo. That sounds nice. What is your favorite story? The Secret Island one, Leo said. He took a small step into the room. And Daddy makes bad sandwiches. The jelly falls out. A real smile touched Mrs. Jenkins's lips for a second. I see. She looked back at Daniel. I will need to speak with the housekeeper, Maria Gonzalez. Is she here? Maria was cleaning the upstairs hall. Daniel called her down. She wiped her hands on her apron and stood quietly. Miss Gonzalez, Mrs. Jenkins began, you told Mr. Carter his son was not physically ill. Yes, Maria said. What did you see that made you think that? Maria glanced at Leo, who was watching her with wide eyes. She spoke softly. I saw a boy who was alive when his father was gone. His eyes followed the birds in the garden. He played with his toys on the floor. But when he heard his father's car or his voice, he would become small. He would go back to bed. He was not sick. He was waiting. Waiting for what? Maria looked at Daniel, then back at the social worker. For his father to see him, not as a sick boy, just as his boy. Daniel looked down at his hands. And now, Mrs. Jenkins asked. Now the father is here, Maria said. So the boy is here too. They are both learning. Mrs. Jenkins was silent for a moment. I will be back next week. I need to see continued progress, Mr. Carter. This is not just about fun and games. You must demonstrate you can provide a stable, healthy, and responsible environment. I recommend you seek some parental guidance, a support group, something to show you are learning how to meet your son's emotional needs, not just his physical ones. After she left, Daniel felt exhausted. It was like a weekly test he could never fully pass. The next day, he found a parent group at a community center in the Richmond district. He sat in a circle with 4 other parents. When it was his turn, he said, My name is Daniel. I don't know how to do this. I just found out my son was lonely and it was my fault. Now I'm trying to be there, but I'm afraid I'll mess it up. A woman across the circle nodded. Welcome, Daniel. The fact that you're afraid means you care. That's the first step. He went every week. He listened. He didn't talk about money or business. He talked about his fear that Leo would be taken away. He talked about how hard it was to just sit and be present. The other parents understood. At home, he kept going, story after story, walk after walk. He made sandwiches where the jelly still fell out. He watched Leo grow stronger, but in his heart, the fear was a constant, cold companion. Every car that drove by the house could be Mrs. Jenkins, coming to end the fragile new world they were building. Maria was wiping the kitchen counter after Mrs. Jenkins's latest visit when the doorbell rang. Daniel was upstairs with Leo, building a fort out of sheets. Maria went to answer it. A woman she did not know stood there. She was older, with kind eyes and silver hair. She wore a simple dress and carried a canvas bag. Hello, my name is Annette. I am with the Bay Area Family Advocacy Center. Is Maria Gonzalez here? I am Maria, she said, surprised. May I come in for a moment? Annette asked. Maria led her to the kitchen. She offered her a glass of water. Thank you, Annette said. She sat at the table. I was at the Department of Family Services today for a meeting. I overheard a worker named Mrs. Jenkins speaking about a case. She mentioned a housekeeper named Maria who had the courage to speak a difficult truth. She said that truth changed everything for a little boy. Maria's hands folded in her lap. I only said what I saw. That is the most important thing to say, Annette replied. She took a sip of water. Mrs. Jenkins said you saw the child's heart when everyone else saw only a sickness. That is a special skill. Do you have medical training? No, Maria said, shaking her head. No training. Have you ever wanted any? To work with people? To care for them in that way? Maria was quiet for a long time. The old dream, buried for 30 years, stirred. When I was a young woman, in Mexico, I wanted to be a nurse. But then I came here. I had my children. There was no time, no money. It was a silly dream. It is not silly, Annette said firmly. We have a program. It is for people like you. People who have wisdom and care but need a chance. It is a partnership with City College. It helps with tuition, with books. It is for a nursing assistant certificate. It is a first step. Maria's heart began to beat very fast. I am too old. I am 58. You are alive, Annette said with a soft smile. That is the only requirement. Think about it. She placed a brochure on the table. The next class starts in 4 weeks. After Annette left, Maria stared at the brochure. She touched the picture of a woman in blue scrubs helping an elderly man. Her hands, which had cleaned and polished for so long, shook. Smile. That is the only requirement. Think about it. She placed a brochure on the table. The next class starts in 4 weeks. After Annette left, Maria stared at the brochure. She touched the picture of a woman in blue scrubs helping an elderly man. Her hands, which had cleaned and polished for so long, shook. That evening, as she was leaving, Daniel stopped her in the hall. Leo was already asleep. Maria, wait. He looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Jenkins said, "She said your words made a difference." "Thank you." Maria nodded. "You are doing the hard work, Mr. Carter." "It is Daniel," he said. "Just Daniel." He noticed the brochure sticking out of her bag. "What is that?" She hesitated, then pulled it out. "It is a chance to go to school, to be a nursing assistant." Daniel took the brochure. He looked at it, then at her. "This is what you want?" "It was a dream, a long time ago." "Then you must do it," he said, his voice certain in the way it used to be about business deals. "But my hours here with Leo." "We will make it work," Daniel interrupted. "You will keep your job. You will work your schedule around your classes. I will pay you the same. This is important." Maria looked at him, truly looked at him. The angry, frantic man was gone. In his place was a tired father, but one who could now see other people. At City College of San Francisco. She wore a new pair of comfortable shoes and carried a notebook. She took a deep breath. She thought of Leo's smile when he mastered a new puzzle piece. She thought of Daniel reading a 4th story. She thought of her own hands, ready not just to clean, but to heal. She walked into the classroom. She found a seat. The teacher began to speak. Maria opened her notebook. She started to write. Her new path, long buried, had finally begun. The letter from the court arrived on a Tuesday morning. Daniel held the envelope for a long time before opening it. Maria stood nearby, her hands still in her cleaning gloves. Leo was at the kitchen table, coloring. Daniel slid the paper out. His eyes moved over the formal words. He read it once, then again. He looked up at Maria, his eyes shining. "It's over," he said, his voice thick. "Dismissed. Leo stays." Maria put a hand over her heart. "Thanks be to God." Leo looked up. "What stays, Daddy?" Daniel walked over and knelt by his chair. "You, buddy. You stay here with me, always." Leo thought about this. Where else would I go? Daniel hugged him, too hard, then softer. "Nowhere. Right here." That afternoon, something in the big glass house shifted. It was as if the walls themselves let out a breath they had been holding for a year. The silence was no longer a cold, empty thing. It was a peaceful quiet filled with the sound of a crayon on paper. Daniel made a decision. He called Amanda. "Sell the North American Data Division. Yes, all of it. Use the capital to set up the long-term trust for the employees. I'm keeping the core team and the original platform. That's all I need to manage part-time." He hung up. He was not a man with an empire anymore. He was a man with enough. The change in the house was slow and steady. The medical machines were taken away one by one. The empty room became a playroom. Lego blocks and picture books covered the floor. A plastic racetrack wound from the sofa to the fireplace. Maria kept her schedule. She came in the mornings, 3 days a week. She cleaned, but now she also studied at the kitchen table after her work. Her nursing textbooks sat next to Leo's coloring books. One Saturday, Daniel and Leo walked to a small park in Pacific Heights. Leo ran ahead, his legs strong now to the swings. Daniel pushed him. "Higher, Daddy," Daniel pushed, watching his son's hair fly back. The simple joy of it filled him up. He did not think about his phone. He thought about the sound of Leo's laughter. At home, Maria was finishing her dusting. She had a final exam the next Monday. She was murmuring medical terms to herself. Leo ran in, his face flushed. "Maria, I went so high." I saw from the window, she said, smiling. You flew like a bird. Daniel followed him in. He looked at Maria, then at the textbook. Are you ready for your test? I am ready, she said, with a confidence that was new. I have studied hard. The following week, Maria arrived with a paper in her hand. She showed it to Daniel. It had a large A at the top. My first final grade, she said. This calls for a celebration, Daniel said. That evening, he ordered pizza, a thing they had never done before. The three of them ate at the kitchen island. Leo got pizza sauce on his chin. Daniel did not wipe it off. Maria talked about her class on patient care. Later, after Maria had gone home and Leo was in bed, Daniel walked through his house. He saw the Lego spaceship half built on the living room rug. He saw Maria's textbook on the counter, bookmarked with a receipt. He saw Leo's small shoes by the door, kicked off in a hurry. The glass mansion was gone. In its place was a home. It was not perfect. It was sometimes messy and loud. It was full of love. He checked on Leo, who was asleep with bubbles tucked under his arm. Daniel did not feel the old, sharp fear. He felt a calm, steady warmth. The next day, he found Maria before she left. Maria, he said, I never said thank you, not properly. You saved my son. You saved me. Maria shook her head. You saved each other. You just needed someone to point the way. You gave us more than direction, Daniel said. You gave us a chance. He handed her a small envelope. For your next semester, for whatever you need. Maria opened it. It was not a check. It was a gift certificate to the college bookstore and a card signed by Daniel and Leo. Leo had drawn a picture of a woman in a cap and gown with a big smile. Maria felt tears in her eyes. Thank you. No, Daniel said. Thank you. That night, Daniel read 2 stories to Leo. As he closed the second book, Leo yawned. Daddy? Yes, buddy? I'm glad you're not so busy anymore. Daniel kissed his forehead. Me too, Leo. Me too. He turned out the light. He knew there would be more challenges, but he also knew the most important things were not bought. They were built day by day with time, with patience, and with the courage to listen to a simple, loving truth.